Welcome back, students, to the third session on organizational citizenship behavior. In the first session, we have talked about understanding the concept of organizational citizenship behavior, and we have dwelled into the nuances related to the same. In the second session, we talked about the dimensions, the antecedents, the forms of organizational citizenship behavior, and we also discussed the implications of organizational citizenship behavior. Today, we will be talking about a little more in terms of organizational citizenship behavior. We will be talking about the benefits of organizational citizenship behavior to start with. Organizational citizenship behavior has a lot of benefits. We have been talking about how walking that extra mile in order to help others in terms of individual level, in terms of organizational level, in terms of the environment, how it is in the forms of organizational citizenship behavior. If you recall, we have talked about all these. Am I right? So we have seen how going that extra mile demonstrates these three forms of organizational citizenship behavior. We also talked about the five dimensions of which Organ has talked about in terms of organizational citizenship behavior, and we discussed their importance as well. We also talked about the antecedents. What are the various antecedents which are positively correlated with organizational citizenship behavior? We discussed about several, such as job satisfaction and others. And finally, we also discussed in the previous session about the implications of organizational citizenship behavior. Now, coming to the benefits of organizational citizenship behavior, it is evident that organizational citizenship behavior, if you consider the dimensions like altruism and others, it does help at an individual level as well as at the organizational level. The other individuals are benefited out of this, as well as the organization, which in turn, because of the strengthened teamwork, may be benefited, or because of the deadlines being reached with the help where others help each other, where the members mutually help each other, there is a benefit. So, what happens when there is a demonstration of organizational citizenship behavior by the employees is there will be an enhanced productivity where each worker means to help the other co-workers and they help the colleagues in order to meet the deadlines. Let us say one is able to finish his work much before the deadline. He or she would go ahead and help the others in order to reach their task in their target within the deadline. So thus it enhances productivity. That is one, first and foremost. In addition to that, it will free up resources. What happens? Autonomous and cooperative employees give managers more time to clear their work because the helpful behavior facilitates cohesiveness in the group. Such organizational citizenship behavior attracts and retains good employees. By creating and maintaining a friendly, supportive working environment and a sense of belonging, definitely it attracts and retains good employees. The next is creating social capital. Better communication and stronger networks facilitate accurate information transfer and improve efficiency, according to Organ et al. In 2006. Coming to the practice of organizational citizenship behavior, the different forms of organizational citizenship behavior, like helping others, civic virtue, then sportsmanship, all these contribute to promoting organizational effectiveness in different ways. A great deal of effort has been made to understand why employees are willing to go that extra mile over and above whatever they are supposed to do. They do much more than necessary. Organet and others in 2006 said the extent to which employees exhibit OCB is a function of ability, motivation, as well as opportunity. The antecedents identified by the academicians and researchers can be used as guidelines to improve the rate of OCB. We have seen in the previous session several studies which have shown what these antecedents are and what is the relation. Is there a positive relation or is there a strong relation? We have been looking into several such antecedents in the previous session. So these antecedents which have been identified in many of these researchers and by the researchers, they become a guiding force in order to improve OCB in the organizations. It becomes essential for the top management and supervisors to focus on motivating employees to engage in organizational citizenship behavior. What are the various strategies? How to put OCB into practice? How to implement it? What are the various ways? What should be done? We will look at certain ways today. The first is a sense of belongingness. Top management has to work towards increasing the sense of belongingness among employees. Once they feel one, once they feel that they belong to this organization and they're a part and parcel of the organization, that sense of belongingness matters a lot. And how does an employee develop this sense of belongingness? It is for the top management to design strategies, to devise ways and means to improve this sense of belongingness among the employees. For example, by encouraging staff to attend certain office functions, get-togethers, and not necessarily always in the office but outside the office premises, to attend cultural events and office-wide birthday lunches, for example, not only of the top management, but also everyone in the organization celebrating the birthdays, having a lunch or a get together, or having a small birthday celebration. So, the sense of belongingness improves when staff are encouraged to come together. The second is enlightening the supervisors. It's not enough if the management knows or if the workers feel or the other employees feel. There are these supervisors who need to be enlightened. Like, for example, there can be certain awareness programs which can be launched for the supervisors. These awareness programs should make them more aware of employee displays of organizational citizenship behavior and should include organizational citizenship behavior in performance appraisals. Organizational citizenship behavior has to be included in performance appraisals. It's not that you help someone and it is taken for granted. It has to be rewarded, it has to be recognized. And devise own casual or informal reward system to encourage OCB. The supervisors have to be trained in such a way that they design or devise their own casual or informal reward system. So that whenever an employee demonstrates organizational citizenship behavior, the supervisor will reward him or her in the ways which are unique to him or her. And it's not just theoretical. Supervisors should readily recognize and reward when an employee demonstrates organizational citizenship behavior. The next aspect is recruitment aspect. While recruiting the freshers, the selection panel has to look at certain traits. Like, for example, whether the person who is going to be recruited, this fresher, is outgoing, is he or she attentive, does he appear an enthusiastic employee, will he or she become an enthusiastic employee, does he or she have a positive outlook and a can do, yes, I can do kind of attitude? Are they more inclined to engage in OCB or are they going to be self-centered? Is it just their self that they're going to bother about, or is it that they're going to engage in organizational citizenship behavior? The panel should also look for traits related to OCB in their psychometric testing. Psychometric testing can be used in order to understand what are the traits in these people, in these freshers. Such employees would definitely motivate others to perform organizational citizenship behavior. If one employee demonstrates organizational citizenship behavior, such employees with the qualities that we have just talked about, outgoing, attentive, enthusiastic, positive outlook, and can-do attitude, and likely to engage in OCB, such people not only demonstrate OCB but also encourage, they motivate others to perform OCB. They stand as models very often. Then comes the factor of environment. The working environment and the process have to be designed such that the whole environment is conducive for employees to engage in OCB. The employment has to be so well designed that the employee feels free to demonstrate OCB by probably some of them may complete their work well in advance and then demonstrate OCB. The atmosphere has to be conducive for that. The environment, working environment has to be conducive for that. So such an environment has to be created. Certain types of group norms, for example, everyone should do only the minimum amount of work required, no one should talk to the supervisor, all these being imposed upon group norms which are imposed upon the employees can hinder the employees' initiative and spontaneity. So what happens when you are put in a framework, when you are fixed in a framework, and when rigidly you are expected to adhere to that framework and not move this side or that side, that can hinder the employee's initiative and spontaneity, and this will decrease the incidence of OCB. It can hinder the employee's initiative and spontaneity, and this will in turn decrease the incidence of organizational citizenship behavior. The next aspect that we have to look into is the top management aspect. The top management themselves should have an inclination towards OCB. If they have an inclination towards OCB, then that helps in motivating employees to engage in OCB. When the management people at the top themselves involved in OCB, they stand as models for the next people who stand next to them, and they are also motivated to engage in OCB. The process of the organization should encourage employees to exhibit extra role behavior. That is, moving that extra mile, going ahead in that extra mile in order to help somebody. So this now brings us to the measurement of OCB. We have so far been talking about the practice of OCB, how OCB can be put into practice, what are the benefits of OCB and how OCB can be put into practice, what are the various strategies, what are the various aspects required in order to put OCB in practice. Now, considering that OCB is being practiced, how do you measure organizational citizenship behavior? The most popular dimensions used to measure organizational citizenship behavior are found in the 5-factor model of organ. We have talked about the 5 dimensions in the previous sessions. So in that 5-factor model of organ, which was proposed in 1988, the most popular dimensions are found. So what are those dimensions? Altruism, courtesy. These two, altruism and courtesy, are grouped under individual directed behavior, that is OCBI, organizational citizenship behavior I, that is individually based. Conscientiousness, civic virtue, and sportsmanship are seen in organization directed behavior, that is OCBO. The dimensions conscientiousness, civic virtue, and sportsmanship are seen in this organization directed behavior, or OCBO. This was the according to Williams and Anderson in 1991. The questionnaire based upon this is such that it targets each of these constructs, that is individual directed behavior OCBI, and also the organization directed behavior, which is OCBO. There are statements such as, I help my colleagues out wherever possible. What does that indicate? It indicates altruism. It indicates altruism. And what does altruism come under? It comes under OCB, organizational citizenship behavior, individually directed behavior. OCBI, I help my colleagues out wherever possible. OCBI, altruism. A statement such as, I don't mind staying back late to finish up my work, even if I am not paid. What does that show? It indicates a sportsmanship. And what does sportsmanship come under? Where is it categorized? It is categorized under OCBO, that is organizational citizenship behavior directed towards the organization. So surveys such as whatever we have talked about, such surveys can be administered periodically in an organization. It's not that you administer one survey at some time and then you forget about it later. No, periodically, time to time, such surveys have to be designed as well as administered in the organizations. And why should such surveys be administered? One, to monitor the organizational citizenship behavior in the workplace. Two, to assess the effectiveness of intervention like training programs. Three, for looking at organizational citizenship behavior as having various dimensions. For example, if employees of an organization are lacking, let us say somewhere in organizational citizenship behavior on O, that is organization based, rather than OCBI, that is individually based, then the organization has to focus upon improving the OCBO factors, that is organizational citizenship, organization based factors, like for example, improving civic virtue. And how is it done? By encouraging the workers to attend all those non-compulsory meetings which they usually forego, which they may not attend at all. Although it is often recognized and rewarded by managerial staff, employees do not necessarily make the connection between performing organizational citizenship behavior and reward gain. Especially OCBI, that is individually based, individually directed, or altruism and courtesy related behaviors. And they do not expect rewards. Yes, it's not that the managerial staff don't recognize them and reward them. They do recognize them, they do reward them. But employees do not necessarily make the connection between performing OCB and reward gain. OCB has a significant impact on the productivity and efficiency of the organization. It contributes to the productivity and efficiency of the organization. We have talked about these in the previous sessions. Workers do not expect to be reimbursed for their efforts. When I help someone, I don't expect to be rewarded or reinforced for that. I do it because I feel like doing it. I feel I should do it. OCB is an efficient way of improving organizational profitability and reducing costs. If there is this mutual helping behavior by walking that extra mile, going extra role, doing something extra role, then in such circumstances, you can very clearly see that there will be an organizational profitability and there will be reduction of costs as well, because you are not bringing any support from outside. It's mutually supportive. Everyone is supporting somebody else. Through, for example, this reducing costs and organizational profitability and reducing costs, how does it happen? For example, through lowering rates of absenteeism and turnover. And it also increases employee performance and well-being, as cooperative workers are more productive. When the workers are cooperative, they are more productive. And this in turn enhances the social environment in the whole workplace. See, it is very clear. When there is a happy employee, someone who has a job satisfaction, they will be demonstrating more OCB, and then that in turn increases the employee performance and well-being. They are more productive. They will be helping others. Since they are helping others, the others will also utilize the opportunity and they in turn, sometimes they may also help mutually, or the person who is helped may help one more person, forming a chain now of help. So, all in all, the cooperative workers are more productive and they enhance the social environment in the workplace. However, we cannot deny that if you have to encourage OCB, there may be certain costs involved. So, costs will be involved if managers actively seek out and reward workers for participating or for engaging in OCB. But costs apart, costs may be temporary. At this point in time, you may feel that you are incurring some expenditure, but the outcome and the long-term benefits for the organization will be much more than whatever we invest now. Potential costs, if supervisors require training, have to be met with, or a meeting that takes a few hours out of their schedule, again, there will be costs. But to enhance their awareness of OCB, the supervisors may require training or may have to attend meetings out of the few, and which takes a few hours out of their schedule, whatever. But the awareness of OCB has to be increased, enhanced. Coming to the evaluation of organizational citizenship behavior, again, this evaluation will involve costs in administering and analyzing the results of either an office or a department, because you have to, the whole department-wide survey or the office-wide survey has to be done. In such a circumstance, in such a context, under such circumstances, there will be costs involved in administering both administration as well as analysis. So this evaluation component, however, is critical, because if you want to design interventions, if you want to identify where the problems are, if you want to design the interventions and you want to implement them, then even these designing of the interventions may involve costs, and in themselves they may be costly. Now again, using time for them, using resources for them in order to implement them is much more costly. Like for example, preparation of posters will take time and energy as well as money. Then pasting of the posters once again will take time and energy. So posters, office functions, all these, when you organize an office function, you have to do a lot of coordination. That may take a lot of your time. That does not mean you don't do it. The outcome will be much more beneficial when compared to the costs that you may incur at this point in time. Evaluations should take place before and after interventions have been introduced in order to assess whether there has been a positive impact on the levels of OCB or not. There are three main issues that the organizations have to be cautious about when promoting OCB in workplace. The first and foremost is gender bias. The top management should be very careful about the implicit gendered expectations. Research has shown that men are rewarded for OCB than women. This is according to Hyman and Shen's research in 2005. On the other hand, women are expected to engage in certain types of citizenship behaviors, such as being altruistic and courteous, more than men, and at the same time, they are less recognized. So you see that gender bias which creeps in, irrespective of whether you want it to happen or not. The second aspect that you have to be careful about is organizational justice. Supervisors reward an employee for exhibiting organizational citizenship behavior more than others. Like you pick up a particular employee and you only reward that person, whereas there may be others who may be thinking that they are exhibiting the OCB, but why this person is being rewarded. So your perceived unfairness may increase among certain clusters of employees. Whatever your unfairness which is demonstrated and perceived by the employees, that may increase among certain clusters of employees. What happens is this will lead to a decrease in organizational commitment behavior among those who are not rewarded look, when I did the same thing, I'm not praised, I'm not even recognized. And look at him, he did much lesser than me and he got the praise. So such will be the comparison. And it may have other side effects such as increasing counterproductive behavior like theft and absenteeism. Theft and absenteeism will not contribute to the improvement of the organization. They're counterproductive. All this is according to the study by Marcus and Schuller in 2004. Then the third aspect which you have to be careful about is conditioning. If employees exhibit organizational commitment behavior regularly, and if it is awarded regularly or rewarded regularly, then the level of organizational commitment behavior rises, it improves, and after some time, the organization gets habituated to it. This is how this person is. He will go out of his way to help somebody. This is how this lady is. She will definitely help someone, whoever is in need. So it's like, it goes on for your own satisfaction or whatsoever. And then what happens is the level of organizational commitment behavior rises and the organization gets habituated to it. It gets used to it. The risk is once considered OCB, like for example, working overtime. What is the behavior which was once considered as OCB? Let us say you are working overtime and it is considered as OCB and you are appreciated and you are rewarded for that. Now let us say you are regularly doing that. If you are doing it regularly, then what was once considered OCB, that overtime, may now become an internalized organizational norm. You are expected. You cannot go at 5:30. How come you are leaving at 5:30? At least till 6 you have to stay back and work, isn't it? Is what the expectation may be. And there is no longer spontaneous and voluntary behavior, but employees will be expected to do that. It's not because you wanted to do it, so you did it. That voluntary aspect is gone now. It is like your organization is expecting it out of you, like any role behavior is expecting out of you, like any role behavior, other role behaviors. So with this, let us conclude this lesson on organizational citizenship behavior. As you are aware, we talked about what is organizational citizenship behavior. We talked about the forms, we talked about the dimensions, we talked about the antecedents. We talked about the research with relation to these antecedents. We saw that the behavior of its organizational citizenship behavior is the behavior of an employee who goes above and beyond his what is normally expected from him. And this in turn supports the organization, enhancing each other's performance, as well as well-being of the whole group. And the profit of the organization, the benefit of the organization may be reflected in terms of the reduced costs and increased profitability even at an organizational level. And OCB is subject to multiple antecedents, and we have discussed in detail about many such antecedents and supportive research. So this finishes our unit on organizational citizenship behavior. Thank you, students.